Hi, I'm Shannon Sheridan, and I'm a research librarian at PNNL. I'm helping the MSD-LIVE team create how-to guides so that users can maximize the utility of MSD-LIVE. In this tutorial, we will focus on deciding what license you should apply to your software. One caveat: I'm not a lawyer, and the content we will cover today addressing licensing is meant to provide general guidance for you as a researcher publishing software. For specifics about each of the licenses, you should consult the text of the license, all of which are freely available online. Now, let's look at some things to consider when evaluating your licensing options. When you upload software to MSD-LIVE, you'll have the opportunity to assign a license to that software. There is no single right answer as to which license to assign. However, it is always a good idea to select a commonly used license. This helps to ensure the maximum reusability of your work. We specify a few commonly used software and data licenses that you can choose from when committing software to MSD-LIVE. When choosing a license, your first step will be to check if your funder or institution has any specific requirements about licenses. If not, and your discipline usually uses a specific license, then you should consider that as well. Finally, to make reuse as likely as possible, choose a license which makes software available to the widest audience possible and allows the widest range of uses. As we go through some different licensing types, you will notice that we do not cover proprietary licenses, as that is outside the scope of this video. To help you narrow down between some more open options, let's go look at some licenses. Let's start with the GNU GPL, or the GNU General Public License. This is an example of a copyleft license, and the most popular open source software license. This license ensures that all future improvements to the software it licenses will be free. The basic idea is that the permission to use, copy, alter, and distribute is granted to everyone who holds a copy of the program. The GPL requires that software be distributed with its source code. A work licensed with the GPL remains GPL licensed even if the work was altered. Additionally, combining a GPL licensed work with a work subject to a different license leads to the work falling entirely under the GPL. So this is a great option if you want to maintain the openness and availability of your software, although it does put more restrictions on downstream users. For example, they can't make their derivative software proprietary if it builds off of your GNU GPL version. The copyright notice must be retained or reproduced in any future redistribution, and you must state what changes you made to the original software. Now let's look at three more permissive licenses. These contain minimal requirements about how the software can be modified or redistributed. First, we have the Apache 2.0 license. This license is compatible with GPL. It allows users to use the software for any purpose, to distribute it, to modify it, and to distribute modified versions of the software under the terms of the license. However, unlike a copyleft license, such as the GPL, Apache does not require a derivative work or modifications to the original to be distributed under the same license. This means derivatives could be released as proprietary software, but the copyright notice must be retained or reproduced in redistributions of source code or in binary form, and you must state what changes you made to the original software. Next up, we have the modified BSD license, or Berkeley Software Distribution. BSD licenses are a low restriction type of license for open source software that does not put requirements on redistribution. Like the Apache 2.0, the BSD license does not have a share-alike requirement. BSD actually refers to a family of licenses. The most common is the two-clause BSD. The BSD license does not require that source code be distributed at all, but the copyright notice must be retained or reproduced in redistributions of source code or in binary form. Finally, we have the MIT license. The MIT license is a very permissive software license, requiring only the preservation of the copyright and license notices on derivatives. Licensed works, modifications, and larger works may be distributed under different terms and without source code. This license also requires the preservation of copyright and license notices. A quick note on these three permissive options: the Apache 2.0, modified BSD, and the MIT license. On this chart, they look very similar and can be used pretty interchangeably, but they do have some minor differences that may matter to you as a researcher, such as whether a person has to note what changes were made to the code. Give the licenses a thorough read for more detail. Finally, let's look at the most permissive option, the CC0 license. This license is a Creative Commons license, one of several public copyright licenses that enable the free distribution of an otherwise copyrighted work. Although it may be less common in software publishing, it's still worth considering. CC0 is a suitable license for dedicating copyright in computer software to the public domain, and, like the Apache 2.0 license, is compatible with the GNU GPL. Also known as the public domain dedication, this license is great at making software available to the widest audience possible and allowing the widest range of uses. The CC0 license places the associated work in the public domain. This means that the author has waived all rights to the work, and others can use, modify, or distribute the work as they like without sharing source code or the licensing information. Users can also change the license on derivative software products. You can quickly and easily add a license in MSD-LIVE by selecting options from a drop-down menu when you go to upload your software. This is an optional field, but we strongly encourage that you assign a license to protect you and your software and make sure you get credit for your work. In the GUI for MSD-LIVE, we provide a list of common software and data licenses that you can choose from. If you have some particular constraints from your institution or funding agency, you can also create and assign custom licenses during the upload process. That brings us to the end of this video. If you have any questions, you can always get support by emailing help@msdlive.org with your questions or suggestions.